Episode 46. Can a contract save from a divorce? After saying this, tears filled her eyes, but she stubbornly resisted the urge to cry, not letting a single tear fall down her cheeks. However, what Dario said the next second almost made her faint. When did I play with your feelings? You went to register for a marriage license with me, then divorced me. If that isn't playing with my feelings, then what is it? All you rich people are the same. I never want to see you again. Leave. Jade threw the agreement onto his chest, and only then remembered that the hotel room was his. She turned around and said, "No, I'll be leaving." When Dario saw her furious look, he got off the bed and hugged her from behind. Jade struggled, thinking he was still trying to play around with her, so she became angrier. "What are you doing? Let go of me, you bastard! Let go of me!" After knowing his true colors, Jade didn't even bother to treat him nicely anymore. She reached out her finger and scratched him with her nails, leaving silvery pink stripes on his arms. At first, he said nothing, but then Dario's expression changed drastically, and he grabbed her hand with force. His voice had become deeper than ever. "Stop moving." Why should she listen to him? Jade was about to struggle again when she suddenly felt something was wrong. Even though she was in her jeans, she could feel something hot and hard pressing against her backside. Because she had experienced this before, she understood what was touching her. She froze in her position, not daring to move. Then she swallowed as she felt that thing behind her getting larger and harder, leaving her unsure where to put her hands. She could also clearly feel that his breathing was getting more ragged. Sorry, I didn't do it on purpose." "Do what on purpose?" Dario's face was warm as he pressed close to her ear, and he whispered in a deep voice, "I don't want to talk to you anymore. I'm leaving. After all, we're already divorced." Just when Jade was about to break free from his embrace, Dario pulled her back onto the bed and pinned her down. He then subsequently forced her to look at the agreement. "Silly, you better look closely at what you've signed." He smiled mysteriously after saying that. Jade felt that something was not right. She carefully read through the agreement and realized that he had fooled her again. The title said it was a divorce agreement, but the contents were not. The first page was that of a divorce agreement, but it was only one page. It was not only incomplete, but it also had no legal effect. Moreover, the page she signed was not the divorce agreement, but a marriage contract. The contents of the contract stated that they both had to sleep in the same bed once married. Without his permission, she couldn't ask for a divorce. Most importantly, they had to do what a husband and wife should do. Jade's face turned pale. What was going on? What had she signed? She felt she'd been tricked, and her face got whiter and whiter as she read the contract. "Do you see clearly now? Your conditions were just a verbal contract, which has no legal force. But mine does." Dario smiled triumphantly. Just as Jade was about to snatch the contract and tear it up, Dario grabbed it back and held it up high so she couldn't reach it. So this was why he was covering the contents of the contract when he asked her to sign. She was furious that she had signed it without reading through it. Jade was filled with regret, but she couldn't undo it. Then she remembered that she had signed another document too. What was that one about? "Bastard, tell me now. What's the other document I've signed?" Dario took the opportunity to wrap his arm around her waist and pin her down on the bed. He whispered close to her ear seductively, "Do you really want to know? Then beg me." "I'll never beg you, bastard." Jade turned her head stubbornly. How could this man be so despicable and shameless? He had tricked her into signing that contract. But Dario's next move gave her the biggest shock yet. You!" Dario pressed his erection against her. Because he was wearing only underwear, it was very obvious. Jade felt incredibly uncomfortable. "That's the contract you've signed. So should we continue with what a husband and wife should do?" Dario's handsome face looked terribly wicked. At that moment, all she felt was fear. She closed her eyes tightly, and a tear slid down her cheek. "You promised you wouldn't force me." Dario's heart sank when he saw her distress. He reached out his hand and touched her lips. Jade kept her eyes tightly closed, but Dario moved away from her. When she opened her eyes, the lights were off. "Go to sleep," Dario said from somewhere in the dark. Jade was confused. She hadn't expected him to let her off so easy. She carefully laid down next to him, but she felt so uncomfortable she couldn't fall asleep. Daria rolled over and hugged her. "Don't worry. Every contract you've signed is for your own good. I'd never do anything to harm you." Daria smiled in the dark. Jade muttered to herself, "Huh? For my own good? More like for your own good. Who knows whether the other contract is a slavery contract or not?" The two of them sleeping in the same bed was the best evidence that the contracts were for his own good. Don't overthink things. You made me angry on purpose just to get me to sign the contract, right? This man was too despicable. He must have known that if he showed her the contract, she would never have signed it willingly. So he had thought up a way to trick her. She was quite pissed off. "How did you know I wouldn't read the contract?" Jade pinched his arm in anger, only then realizing that his arm was incredibly muscular, and she was the one who ended up in pain. "Because you are dumb." "You?" Jade turned away, furious. Who the hell did he think he was? How dare he call her dumb? How was she dumb?